Welcome to the Snyder Report podcast. I am your host, Gary Snyder. And before we get to our next guest, who you can kind of see over there, so it's no big surprise to you, we need to thank our sponsors of this podcast tonight. Robin Winson has been with us since the beginning with the newsletter. We're up now to over 100,000 daily subscribers, and he's been instrumental in getting the podcast rolling. Then we can't forget about our good friend, former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson. Her book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America, is out. You can get that anywhere that you get your books. Joining me now is former U.S. Senator, former Congressman, former Ambassador to the Vatican, Joe Donnelly. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me with you tonight.
Well, that is much appreciated. And I want to start by saying when you were running in 2018, I was running for state senate, and I got a ride around you in your Winnebago around the Marion area.
Yes.
And my daughter, she has two pictures hanging up on her wall. One of them is you with her and your wife at the Marion, I believe it was the Boys and Girls Club.
It was. Yes.
And the other one is her with John Bon Jovi in the Notre Dame press box. So you're in good company.
I'm in good company is right. Yeah.
Well, we wanted to have you on because the sad news came this morning as most of us were waking up. You were the ambassador to the Vatican, I believe acting ambassador to Italy, if I'm correct. Maybe I'm wrong there. But so you have, a greater insight than maybe a lot of us do about Pope Francis. Can you just take a few minutes and talk to us about the Pope that you knew?
Sure. He was everything you thought times about three in terms of his caring for the poor, for standing up for those who were struggling, for helping those in poverty. And at the same time was probably one of the most charismatic people I ever met. When he smiled, he lit up a whole room. He had a very good sense of humor. He loved music. He loved the tango. He loved Argentine soccer. And so he had other passions that kept his mind fresh, kept him busy. He worked from 5 or 6 in the morning till 8 or 9 at night. He was a workaholic 7 days a week. And when asked why he worked so hard, he said, I've been given this position. The Lord expects me to do my best till I run out of gas. And today was that day, but we're so grateful for everything he's done.
When you look back at his papacy, you mentioned that he was an advocate for the poor. A lot of times running in conflict with maybe some that were Catholic that maybe didn't agree with him on some of those issues. Do you think that is maybe his lasting legacy?
I think his lasting legacy is becoming the head of a church that was focused more on rules and, making sure that everybody just towed a certain line and took it to a place where, as he put it, the church is a field hospital for the sick as opposed to a perfect home or a home for the perfect. And so he wanted to refocus the church on those who needed help the most, and both spiritually, physically, mentally. And he did that. He was someone who was always an advocate for the underdog. Every room you were in when he was there, he always searched out. He could kind of tell the person who was struggling. And he'd come over, put his arm around them, talk to them, laugh with them, to tell them, look, there's hope. And so I think that's his legacy. I was asked earlier today, somebody said, well, he was considered a liberal pope. And I said, I don't think so, because, caring for the poor is what Jesus talked about. That's not liberal. And trying to help those in need, that's not liberal. That's just what we're supposed to do.
When you look back at I guess it's about 13 years as the Pope. I think he came in 2012. When you got to the Vatican, what was your impression the first time that you met him?
He was really vibrant at that point. As the years went past, he started to struggle more physically, but he
Don't
really
we all?
Yes, we do, including you, including me. Um, it's the old laugh. I said, I think I'm 40, but my body doesn't agree with me. Couldn't get enough done in a day, if you know what I mean. That it was always,
Mhm.
he wanted to always package 48 hours in a 24-hour day and was involved in everything. There was nothing that escaped his eye. He was not only an incredibly kind person focused on the best for everyone, but he was also a good manager of the Vatican, that he managed their finances, put the right people in place doing the right things. He helped clean up their operations. And so he took a lot on, hired really good people, and had success.
Give us a memory that you have with him that will last with you until you die. A memory that will just remain with you for the rest of your life.
It was one of them was just last year at the G7, and that's the meeting of all of the major industrialized countries, and hundreds of others leaders were, or 100 other leaders were there as well. It was in southern Italy, and I was there with President Biden, and all the other country leaders were coming in, and everybody's like, "There's so and so from Saudi Arabia. There's so and so from this country." And when he walked in, everybody stood up and cheered. It was like a rock star walked in. And he had never been to something like that before, but figures since it was in Italy, southern Italy, he would come and plead the case for the poor. And that's what he did.
How did he react to being treated like a rock star when he walked in?
He laughed.
So the business now is to pick a new pope here in a couple of weeks. Anything about the process that maybe you think we should know about? Everyone knows the white smoke.
Right. Well, it's designed to help the cardinals get to know one another, to spend time with each other. One of the challenges that the church has right now is there's a lot of new cardinals who don't really know the other cardinals that are out there. So the church is in a spot where not everybody knows everybody else. The goal is for the cardinals to spend some time together, get to feel comfortable with one another, to make a decision. There's some terrific candidates out there, and I feel pretty confident that they'll find a strong leader.
Any of the candidates out there that maybe catch your eye going into this? Because
Well,
my
I
wife my
work.
wife gave me a list and she goes, ask him about and I'm like, we'll just see if he has any thoughts on who maybe a front runner may
Yeah,
be.
I'm not gonna pick a front runner because I'm afraid if I do, anybody who has a reason to have a grudge might might be against them. But people I worked with a lot were Cardinal Parolin, who is the number two now as the Secretary of State, extraordinarily talented cardinal. Cardinal Zuppi, who is the Archbishop of Bologna, the head of the Italian Catholic Church. He and I worked together on trying to bring the Ukrainian children home from Russia
Okay.
when they had been taken. And so we worked extensively together in those efforts. So those are two. There's another Cardinal Toggle who was around in the Philippines, who was around the Vatican a lot, who is extraordinarily well respected. So we'll see how this comes out.
Well, I want to thank you for your time before we let you run here. Again, we do need to thank Robin Winston, a great sponsor of both the podcast and the newsletter. And we need to thank Jill Long Thompson. Her latest book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America, is out. Any last thoughts,
Yeah,
Ambassador?
please tell your daughter that I had hoped to be a singer like John Bon Jovi until somebody heard my voice. So
Now, one last
that was the
question.
end of that.
My daughter and my wife are going to Italy and Rome over the summer. One place that they need to visit or eat at.
Enzo's in Trastevere is incredible. The food is just amazing, and you can't go wrong there. And another one is Scarpone, not far from the Vatican. That is actually where Pope Benedict used to hang out when he was a cardinal.
That's amazing. If you could just hang on as soon as we get off the air here, and we'll say goodbyes there. But I'm Gary Snyder. He's former ambassador to the Vatican, Joe Donnelly. This is the Snide Report podcast, and we are out.